Welcome to the 8th beer of Oktoberfest 2021. I am here today with Regie Ford, a loan officer with the American Financial Network. Did I get that right, Reggie?
You sure did.
Excellent. I am having a Leinenkugel Oktoberfest here in Lubbock, Texas. And Reggie, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Oktoberfest from Legends here in Richmond, Virginia, local brewery.
Excellent. Well, Reggie, cheers, man.
All righty. Cheers.
So Reggie, today we are talking about VA loans, and you are a loan officer, but also a veteran. And so I think maybe more than most other loan officers, you understand the importance of the VA loan. So take us through that. What is the VA loan? Who qualifies for a VA loan? What are the benefits of the VA loan? Just walk us through this.
Appreciate that. Tracy, thank you for inviting me. This is a topic that we really need to talk about because a lot of veterans do not realize the benefits that they get. One of the main things that's the main highlight of a veteran loan, the VA loan, is it's 100% financed. 100%. So let me tell you a quick story. My sales manager, he actually had a client that had a $1.6 million VA loan, and he did it. And the reason I tell that story is because there's no cap. $1.6 million, he didn't have to put any money down. The only thing with VA, and it's not the only thing, and you and I discussed it earlier, a VA, which is a government loan, which all government loans have a more stringent appraisal process, but that actually protects you, the client. Is more, so most people look at it and say, oh, it's more stringent, but it really protects you. So you don't have to worry about a leaky roof down the road or chip paint. It mostly looked like chip paints. I had one where the window would not open, and they painted it shut, but they had to go back and fit it out, but it did not pass the appraiser. The appraiser said, hey, y'all fix this and come back and get it. One of the other things about the VA loan, which I think is most important, and I'm not sure a lot of people take advantage of this. Most people, like you said, I'm a veteran, and I am a disability. I get disability for being in the military for a couple of problems I had when I was in there. So I get to use that as that helps me when I get a VA loan. The way you use that, the VA has what's called an upfront funding fee. But if you do not get, if you receive a disability from the VA, they waive that upfront funding fee. Many people don't know that, or many people don't take advantage of it. It's actually up to your loan officer to share that with them, with you. But if you can take a little note and put inside your head, that upfront funding fee is what really helps you out, because that upfront funding fee can be a lot of money.
I had no idea about the upfront funding fee. That's good to know.
Yeah, that saves you a lot of money. There's no MI, mortgage insurance, on VA loans. So a lot of people ask about, and there's a difference. You have MIP, which is mortgage insurance premium. That's on an FHA loan. Then you have PMI. Well, it's not a difference. The name is a difference, but they both are the same. And what that does, even though you don't have it on a VA loan, but I do want to explain it.
Sure.
Most people think that's a bad thing. So years and years and years ago, you would have to put 20% down. That's the only way you can buy a house. So the government finally came up with something to say, hey, let's mitigate our risk. Let's have them to pay an insurance premium, which you call a mortgage insurance premium, or private mortgage insurance. And while they're paying that, if something happens and they default on the loan, well, we can pay the bank some of the money back, so the risk will not be as bad. And many people, who do not have 20%, they don't have to bring 20% down. They can bring 3%, 3.5%. But again, as a VA loan, you only have to bring 0% for your closing costs. Then sometimes you don't even have to do that, depending on what the appraisal comes in at, and depends on if the seller gives you seller concessions.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I didn't realize that on VA loans either, that they had no PMI involved. Yeah. you said that it's 100% funding on a VA loan. It doesn't. You don't have to do 100% though, right? You could do a down payment if you wanted to lower your payment.
Absolutely, you could do that. And another thing, VA rates are starting to go up. They're not crazy. People hear the word rates are going up and they panicking and they say, "Oh, I want to." Rates are not. It's still an excellent time to purchase. And VA loans typically have the best interest rates. Now, it's maybe a quarter or eighth difference, but they typically have the best interest rate, especially at 100% financing. Now, there is a drawback with the VA loan. It's not, I don't consider a VA loan. I think it's more responsible. I mean, a drawback. I think it's more responsible. You hear us always talk about debt to income.
Right.
And on an FHA loan, you can go over 50% debt to income. You can go up to 57%, I think.
Wow.
On a VA loan, typically you're gonna want to be around 41%. You can go over with some compensating factors or some residual income. Everything got to be pristine. But the beauty about that is it does not allow you to get outside of your spending capacity. And that's what I like about the VA loan. They're strict with their guidelines, but it will not allow you to get outside of that capacity of spending. Other loans, they're a little more lenient, but USDA loan is well, it's not as lenient, but that's another 100% financing program as well.
I agree with you on that. I mean, with that higher debt to income ratio, you could certainly buy more house than you can afford and get yourself, find yourself a few years down the road in a little bit of trouble. So like you said, just like the appraisal requirements are there to protect you, I think that debt to income ratio is there to protect you also.
Absolutely. I have clients. The first thing I ask the client, what is a comfortable payment for me? It's the first thing. So I always give them the comfortable payment. How much house? 200,000, 300, whatever. Then I give them the max. And I hate to say this, Tracy, so often they may want a $1,200 payment around 200,000. They may qualify for 275, and it's out of what they're comfortable with, but some sort of way they gravitate to it. And I say, hey, this is what you say is the best thing for you right now. I know you qualify for this much. And this is the thing that I get a lot of people. We don't qualify you off of net income. We qualify you off of gross income. You don't take gross home, you take net home.
Yeah.
And that's what people are like, oh, I qualify for more than what I thought. Yeah, but you're not bringing gross home, you're bringing net home. Yeah, so that's something. But it's, for the most part, like what you're doing, is education. Once you sit down and explain it to a client and you talk with them, take the time with them and share with them everything with all the jargon that we use and break it down to the simplest compounds. For the most part, they really understand and appreciate it.
Oh, I would think so. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that process like of getting a VA loan? I assume it's very similar to an FHA or a conventional loan, but are there any differences as far as getting through pre-approval, approval, and those things?
That's a good question. So you have to have what's called a DD-214. That's when you get discharged from the military. And they'll say if it was an honorable discharge, or dishonorable, or general discharge. And we use that to get your COE, Certificate of Eligibility. That tells us how much you're eligible for the house, and it shows how much the VA will cover just in case you default on the loan. So the VA loan actually itself is the PMI, or the mortgage insurance. So that's why it's no mortgage, because the loan itself is the VA say, hey, we'll take care of this. Now, if you're still in the military, you won't have a DD-214 at the time. So you have to get something called a statement of service. And you get that from the supervisor, whoever in charge. And that shows that you're still in the military, and it tells us a little information that we need. But other than that, those are the only different things that you need. I mean, they ask for a couple of other stuff that goes on the application, but it's other than the certificate of eligibility, it's an easy loan, straight process. We can get it through. It's a wonderful loan. It really is.
What about the family of a veteran? Are families eligible, or any members of the family eligible for one of these loans?
If the husband, if I'm saying it like this, if the husband or the wife died, whoever was in the military, it was 100% and something like that. I know a guy, he was a veteran. He died. His wife she was able to use his benefits to purchase a home.
That's awesome.
That way. So even if you have, and what's another thing is beautiful about it too, if you have two vets in the house, one can buy with their VA and another can buy another house with their VA. And you can buy, this is another misnomer people don't know. You can buy more than one house with your VA loan. It's depending on how much, it's a formula that we have to figure out. It depends on how much you use in your current, when you first bought your first house. And then you can buy your second. Another thing with a VA loan, they are assumable. So you can assume a VA loan. If I'm a veteran, I just got to qualify going in, I can assume the loan with that. So that's the beauty of VA loan. Now, one thing with the VA loan, in order to free up your veteran money again, that loan has to be completely paid off. If you wanted more money, you still have some left over. But if you want the full benefits again, it would have to completely be paid off.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned assumed. That's something that I think is going to be really desirable in the future. Once we get away from these super low interest rates and interest rates start going back up, the veterans who have purchased homes on these incredibly low interest rates, someone is able to assume that in the future. And so maybe our buyers weren't assuming notes when interest rates were really high, but now that these are low, in the future, someone could buy a home from a veteran and pick it up at the 2%, 3%, whatever their interest rate was. That's incredibly enticing.
Absolutely. And that is one of the benefits of that. There are a ton of benefits with the VA loan. But I think it's just the unknown. A lot of people don't realize it, they don't understand it. And not necessarily the client. I think a lot of loan officers do not steer themselves that way, and they don't educate themselves on it, but it's actually an excellent loan. It really is. Right.
Oh, absolutely. So is there anything else we should know about VA loans?
They have what's called a IRRL. I forgot what it stands, interest rate reduction something loan. And that is an excellent loan if you want to refinance and reduce your rates. It's minimum paperwork, minimum everything. It is an excellent loan. And you can get cash out. If you want to refinance and get cash out on a VA loan, you can do it at a lower interest rate. The cash out is typically higher than than an FHA or a conventional loan. It used to be all the way up to 100%, but it's not that high anymore. I think it's like 95% LTV. But definitely, if you wanted to refinance and get some cash out, I know a young lady who refinanced. She actually refinanced, pulled a lot of cash out, went and bought an investment property, put that as her down payment on her investment property, and she's using that property actually as an Airbnb. So, nice. And she's at a low interest rate when she refinanced.
Oh, that's excellent. Something you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about you can buy more than one house. Do you mean you can do that concurrently? A veteran can, if they don't use up all of their whatever that allotment is, they could buy a house for themselves and then go buy an investment property also?
Not an investment property.
Okay.
But there's a button. So let's say you bought one in Lubbock, you bought a house in Lubbock, and you decide to move to Houston. Well, if you have enough money on there, you can still buy you a house in Houston, and you're still under your VA loan in Lubbock. And so you have two at that time. So what I'm saying is, for example, I had a young guy, matter of fact, he's in Dallas. He had a property that he bought in North Carolina, VA loan, but he moved to Dallas and he wanted to use his VA loan for that. He did not rent out his other property in North Carolina. He just wanted to use it as he go back and forth. So
Sure.
he still had two properties. So he didn't use it as an investment property. He could have used it as an investment property. So that's the only time you can use it as an investment property is if you bought it initially as a primary and you decided to move and go somewhere else. But if you bought a house, I want to say, let's say you bought a house December in Killeen, Texas, and you wanted to buy another one in Galveston, Texas in January, I mean, you could if you had enough entitlements. That's what it's called, certificate of eligibility. Absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's just a huge opportunity for veterans to be able to take advantage of something like that.
Absolutely.
Not available to most people. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And definitely a well-deserved benefit of being a veteran for all the things that all of you have done for all of the rest of us. So we appreciate that, man.
I appreciate you all. Thank you.
You bet.
So one of the things earlier you mentioned about investment properties, and I forgot to mention this, you can also, actually I have a client doing this right now, you can actually buy a duplex, a triplex, or quad. You can't go over 4 units, but you can actually buy a quad. So think about that. You buy a quad for $300,000. You have to move into one, or have the intent to move into one. You got 3 other ones paying the rent. After a year or so, you can move out. You have a full-fledged investment property that was 100% financing, that you did not come out of your pocket, and probably closing costs. And if you got some closing cost money from someone else, that you probably come out of your pocket with nothing. But even if you just paid closing costs, you got a 4-plex with 4 rental pieces of income coming, 3 first year and 4 the next year. And you may still have some money on your VA entitlement to go buy you another property after that. So great benefits.
That is a fantastic benefit. So when you're calculating something like that, we talked a little earlier about debt to income ratio. Does the income, if you're buying a quad, does the income from those other 3 units get to count as part of your income in the debt to income ratio?
Yes.
Wow.
You can use that, especially now. You may have to do some stuff depending on the underwriting. You may have to get some leases beforehand. Say, hey, Bob, Sally, and John are moving in, or whatever the case may be. But absolutely, or if you're already buying it and someone's already in the quad or the duplex or the triplex, there go that income, which will go towards your debt to income, which will help you out even more. Absolutely, good question.
Man, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I appreciate you bringing that back up and sharing that with us. And we are back with Regie Ford to talk about Regie. So Regie, we know you're a veteran, but which branch of the military did you serve in, and when did you serve?
I actually served in the Air Force. I was in there from 1990 to 1994, but a funny story. I'm originally from Texas, but I went to join, I graduated high school in Tucson, so I went to join the Marines. I went to the Marines. I said, Marines, Simple Fire, all that. I was just, And they said, it's 13 weeks of basic training. I said, I can't do it. I walked out. Air Force guy said, hey, we got 6 weeks. I said, sign me up. So I joined the Air Force, But I loved it. I was stationed up in Maine, Loring Air Force Base in Maine. I worked on, what they call electro-environmental specialist. That's an electrician. Then I worked on the oxygen system as well. And I worked on a KC-135. That was the plane that refused other planes in the air. And I've never heard that before. It just blew my mind when I saw it. There's no way a plane can refuel another airplane in the air. And so I was glad to work on that plane. Absolutely.
That's cool. That is very cool. I know you can't go into details, but you served overseas as well. Is that right?
I was in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and I was in Spain. So I was in Riyadh for Desert Storm. And I share this with people, not to minimize the Air Force, but I was over there for 3 months. But the Air Force is so far away from the fighting and everything. I saw the planes come back with bullet holes, but I was nowhere near danger. Now, at least I thought I wasn't. So I remember one night, because the Army was protecting us, and we stayed in what's called Escon Village. And the Army was protecting us. They said, hey, last night they shot a Scud missile over here, but we knocked it out of the air with the Patriot. I mean, I didn't know, we wouldn't have known anything, but the Army was taking, so my hats off to the Army because they protected us while we were there. We went to, I went to work, and I really didn't know I was in the war. You knew it when the planes came back, but we were well protected over there. So my hats off to the Army and the Marines who are looking the enemy right in the eyes and fighting them. So yeah, it was, that was, and then when I was in Spain, that's when, I don't know if you remember when they said Black Hawk down, and they was dragging Americans through the streets. And that's when we was in Spain, that to support that as well. But it was in Africa, and we supported that. But again, I'm not in harm's way. But so, yeah, Marines and the Army, they did their thing.
Wow, absolutely. So how old were you when you enlisted?
22 years old. I went in when I was 22, and it's bad when you're going in when you're 22 because you think you're a man, you think you're grown, you think you know everything, and you're like, man, they can't tell me anything. But I always tell people I grew up in the military, and this is the story I share with people. I knew I grew up. We had what's called a red ball. Is the plane is getting ready to take off, just like when you at the airport, it's getting ready to take off, something is wrong. So they call and they say, hey, we're not getting power from the number 3 engine or something. So I'm the only one on shift. I'm working midnight, and I go out there, and everybody's watching. I mean, you're on display. I mean, everybody's waiting. You got to get this plane up. Everyone. So I go out there and I troubleshoot to the generator. It was $1 million part. So $1 million. And so I'm waiting for confirmation from my supervisor when they come. It was right around shift change. And I came in, it was like, no, you troubleshot, that's it. That's what you say, let's go with it. And I think that's when I grew up. I really did, because I was nervous. I wanted somebody to confirm my troubleshooting and to say it's okay, kind of take a little of the pressure off of me. They were like, no, this is you. This is all you. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. And it happened to be right. But it really, I said, that's when I grew up. When I was like, wow, I ordered $1 million part. I have to put it on this plane, and everybody was dependent on me. So wow, I grew up.
That's amazing.
I grew up in the Air Force. I tell people that every day. That's when I became a man. Yeah.
So then, what was next for you? What did you do after the Air Force?
So when I got out of the Air Force, and this is crazy, I'm in Maine from Texas.
And that's a huge temperature change, right?
Oh, huge. Oh my God, that's why I got out, because they wanted to send me to Minot, North Dakota, or Grand Forks, North Dakota. And I said, man, I cannot go to another cold weather base because the flight line is colder than anything because it's wide open space. I said, I can't do it. And they were closing my base, and you have the choice of going where you want to go, depending on your rank. So I had just got promoted to an E4, but it was an early promotion. I won something called below the zone, so you get promoted 6 months early. So that's all great. You get a raise, you do all this. But I'm the lowest ranking E4 in my grade, so I didn't get to pick where I wanted to go. I had to get what was left over. I was like, man, this is bittersweet. And so I said, I can't do it. So I said, I'm gonna move to Virginia Beach. And I wanted to move to Virginia Beach because they had a school where you can learn how to work on airplanes and get your A&P license. So that's one of the reasons I moved to Virginia Beach. And I always thought it was crazy because as a military person, you could not work on a civilian plane. Even when civilian planes landed on our base, you can't touch it. Even though we got bombs and gas and all this other stuff on our planes and special equipment, you cannot touch a civilian plane. And I thought it was crazy. So I said, I'm gonna go there and get my A&P license. But I never got my A&P license, and I never left Virginia. So that is how I got to Virginia. I want to get my A&P license.
So what did you start doing then, since you didn't go after the license?
So I started I started working for this company. You know, I just got to, so I went to Texas when I got out, but I moved all my furniture. I told the military, I said, move all my furniture to Virginia. Never been to Virginia in my life, but I knew if they moved my furniture to Virginia, I had to come back. So I had to come. So I moved in. And it's funny how you're so acclimated to your environment. So the first thing I did when I got to Virginia, fresh out of the military, I sought out military people. I went and stayed on military base because that was my comfort zone, not the regular civilians. I mean, I can function around civilians, but my comfort zone was the military. So I gradually kind of got away from that, but I was still in a military town. Because Virginia Beach, we have like 3 or 4 Navy bases, you got 2 Army bases. Hampton has an Air Force base, so it's a lot of military in that area. So I was comfortable. And so I worked at this one company that did something with ships. And then one day I was out and I saw the captain that was in my squadron, and he was working for Circuit City. And he said, "Hey, Reggie." And we got to talking, gave my number. A couple of months later, he called me and said, "Hey, Reggie, come on, work over for Circuit City." And I started working at Circuit City. But I felt comfortable because it was a captain that I knew in the military. And it took me a while to kind of get out of that military mind frame. And you don't realize it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just an even thing, I guess. And so I eventually started working for Circuit City, and then eventually I moved around Virginia. Then I really got back heavy into politics because I was kind of was dibbling and dabbling in high school. Well, knew a little bit about high school, but then I finally got heavy into politics. Yeah.
That's cool. So when did you make the leap into loan processing, becoming a loan officer?
So I was, this is a funny story too. So I was working for a company, and the company shut down, you know, and I moved to Richmond. I was in a different part of Virginia, and I moved to Richmond, Virginia. And I came in, I was working, and the company shut down, and I was 32, 33. I said, I'm not going back to work. I'm done, I'm happy. So I started a little power washing company. Now power washing houses and doing stores, cement. I felt good. I was starting to build my business. But at the time, my wife was like, "Nah, you're gonna have to go back to work." I don't care how much money you're making. You know, just the comfort of having a steady check coming in, and rather than me having this entrepreneurial stuff. And I'm 30-something years old, so I got another 30 years to work. In her mind, like, no, you're gonna. So, so I had this one company, smaller company, and they called me because they heard about me from the old other company I worked for. So I said, my wife said, "You're gonna take that job?" I said, "Okay." So I gave them all kind of praise. I said, "I want a 6-week vacation. I want this amount of money. I need this, that." I gave them everything to say no. And they said, and I said, "I'm going on vacation in 2 weeks, and I need to hear from you all by such and such as night. I'm not coming." I mean, I was calling the shot. They said, "Hey, deal." And I'm like, "Oh." Yeah, they gave me the job. And this was the time, I don't know if you remember, this was the time when they had the sniper out, the DC sniper. And so we right up the street from DC. So he killed a couple of people, shot a couple of people, like 30 minutes away from us. And the whole city was nervous, everybody. And I remember one day they said they caught somebody at the Exxon. That's right up the street from where I stayed. And I'm like, "Oh, wow, what is it?" I'm thinking, he said, "Reggie, you can go home and see if anything with your wife and all that." And it wasn't. So, so I'm working this job. I just did not like this job. I just really did not like it. I didn't want to be there. So they laid me off. So I'm happy. I got laid off again. And me and this other guy and some other people got laid off. And then once it was over with, I said, I tell you what, so I made a deal with my wife. Let me do my power washing work. And I went to work for this company selling carpet, but it was only on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I did that. And then somebody came in and said, "Hey, do you want to do mortgages? I said, no, I don't know anything about mortgages. And I happen to know a lot of people, so I got involved with it. As soon as I got into doing mortgages, it was just because I knew a lot of people and they knew me, they trusted me, it just flourished. And within 6, 8 months, I was a branch manager over a mortgage company. And that's how it was. And then, but then the 2007 market boom hit, everybody crashed. And I said, I'm never going, I lost everything. I mean, I thought I made it, I thought it was it, lost everything. House, all those rental properties I was telling you about, houses, cars, I lost it all. So I'm never going back into this industry again. But it kept calling me and it kept calling me and it kept calling me. So I don't think I would ever leave this industry now. So that's how I ended up in it. Somebody asked me, do I want to do it? They felt that I had it. And that's something like the guy, Dinner Job, who gave the speech in Toastmasters. Somebody saw something in me. Had no clue about mortgages, no clue, but that was my introduction to mortgages.
That's cool. And still doing it.
Yep. I said I would never go back, but it was just calling me. And I said, I'm gonna do it. I love it. Yeah, but you have your ups and downs. You got to roll with it. You go with it, but it's nothing. And people think this is a cliche, but it's not. It's nothing more joyful than seeing someone get their home who thought they could never get a home or just move in. I don't care how bad the loan went. The day you handed them keys, all that bad stuff went away, and they're so excited about that. So I that feeds me. That's really what feeds
me. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I know right now, especially, you are super busy processing loans and getting those taken care of and making those people happy by getting them into their homes. But what do you do when you're not being a loan officer? What's Regie after hours look like?
So right now, at this particular time, I'm training for a marathon. This is my 7th marathon I'm training for. And people always, matter of fact, someone asked me today, they said, Regie, how do you do it? Because I just ran 20 miles on Saturday. And I said, on Sunday. And I said, well, believe it or not, I know you hear the 20 miles and you think that's a lot. And it is, but the 3 miles or 4 miles or 5 miles, when you're building up to the 20, that's actually the worst. When you're building your base and that base is worse. So you hear the word 20 mile and you hear 3, but that 3 is a whole lot tougher when you're starting out to get to that 20. Right. And it's a little difficult. It's a lot tougher now, physically, but not mentally, because I've 13 years ago when I ran my first marathon, totally different. And I've learned so much mentally. That's what's getting me through now. I was sharing with them today. I'm 12, 13 pounds heavier than what I was back then. Wow. There's a whole, you're running 26 miles with 13 extra pounds hitting the ground. It's a lot tougher. But mentally, when I ran my first marathon, I don't think there's anything else that I can compare this to, but it really shared with me or told me that you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. It really did, because it was grueling. It was the first one. I didn't know the right clothes to wear. I'm wearing cotton. I didn't know how to hydrate. I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know any of the things that you need to know for running. So it made it that much more difficult. But I was 13 years younger. And so I think that was the most, that and Toastmasters gave me the confidence to pretty much say, hey, I'm gonna do it. Whatever happens, happens. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's cool. Okay, well, speaking of, tell us a little bit about Toastmasters. I mean, I know, but for somebody who's watching that may not know, what is it? What's the organization like, and what's your history with the organization?
Toastmasters is the best thing. I honestly think it should be taught in every school. And the reason I say that is because, I ran for office. I ran for office to House of Delegates here in Richmond. I'm in Virginia, and I ran for city council. Had it not been for Toastmasters, I would not have had the confidence to get up and run. It teaches you leadership. It teaches you the proper way to evaluate a person. It has so many different elements, and people think Toastmasters just give you the ability to stand up in front of 1,000 people and talk. No, it gives you the confidence to go in there and ask your boss for a raise. It gives you the confidence to stand up in your community or stand up in your place of faith and give a presentation or introduce somebody. It's just so many different things. And you, like you said, you and I both served on a board together. And
Right.
I know you can say this, I can say we came back with a wealth of knowledge, learning how to work with a team. And when people do not agree with you, learn how to accept that and support what the team says. So it's those two things have been, Marathon and Toastmasters have been so instrumental in my life. I honestly believe it should be taught in the school system.
That's what's amazing to me about Toastmasters, but I'm sure it's the same for marathons. You don't think that something like that is necessarily related to the rest of your life. It's something you're doing. Maybe it's beneficial in this one little facet, like you said, standing up and speaking in front of, well, you said 1,000 people. When I first joined Toastmasters, I just wanted to stand up and speak in front of 10. I wasn't looking for 1,000. But you find that the things like that really give you confidence and give you, if nothing else, exactly what you said, the understanding that you can accomplish anything you put your mind to, and just having that constant feedback. And I'm sure it's the same for running. Like you said, you start at 3 miles. You don't start at 20 miles. You don't start with a marathon. That's not day one.
Right.
It's that constant building up and watching yourself grow and improve and saying, if I can do that here, I can do it over here.
Absolutely. Let me tell you a quick thing. So I was the president of this political organization here. And we had to have a conference. Well, as a district director, and program quality, we had to put on a conference. And so when I pulled a team together, and they were just so amazing. I had the spreadsheet, the budget, everything that we needed, the contacts to the hotel where we had to, and it was like, wow. And that was all Toastmasters. And I felt so comfortable calling, negotiating, talking. My team, I actually put some Toastmasters in on my team to do that. And they were so amazed how meticulous and how detailed we were to pull this off. And it was amazing. And all of that was Toastmasters. Had I not had Toastmasters, it would have been a cluster. It really would have been.
Sure. Yeah. So you ever had to try to do a speech while running a marathon?
So, hey, you know what? That's another good story.
Okay, that was not a setup. I was thinking that was not a thing.
No, but that actually, so I'm a Mason as well. So in Masons, we had to memorize a bunch of stuff and blah, blah, blah. And while I was running, I would go over what I had to say as a Mason. So by the time, you sit there, you're running, you're sweating, you're hot, you're looking at cars, you're looking at this, every element is coming through you where you have to concentrate and still deliver the speech. And so I did that as a Mason. Then when I started doing my speeches, I started doing the same thing while I was running. So when I got up to give a speech, there's no stop light, there's no four-way stop sign, there's no someone honking at you, and you do all this is going in your head while you're watching and running, using all your other senses and stuff. And that actually helped me out a lot when I go out running. Yeah.
That is very cool. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. I think you're exactly right. Having all those other things out of your head just clears that space and gives you a lot more room. And so giving that presentation, whatever it might be, is not as all encompassing because you were doing it with everything else that was going on.
Exactly.
So it seems like that would be great training for maybe the international speech contest and Toastmasters. Go give your speech while you're running around the park a few times or down city streets, and then when you get up to give it on stage, it's a completely different ball game.
Completely different ball game. That helped me out a lot. It really did.
Well, it sounds like you're involved in a lot of organizations. You're very politically active, Masons, Toastmasters, you're running a lot. Is there anything else you're doing? just to.
Well, I picked up tennis, and so I like tennis. It's a little difficult for me to master right now. I want to master it, but it's fun. It's really fun. It's a sport that I can play into my 80s. And I'm getting beat by 80-year-old people, and that's not a joke. That is, they are seriously beaten, and they're excellent. Been playing for 50, 60 years, but they're excellent. But yeah, I'll pick that up. I'm trying to stay a little more active. I really am, because I slowed down a little bit, but I said I need to get back and get active.
That reminds me of a story. Back in my probably mid-20s, I played racquetball a lot. And me and a friend of mine thought we were really good. And we went and joined a tournament one time, and we get up there, and we are the youngest two guys in this tournament by about half. I would say the next youngest was 50 something. And we were looking at each other going, man, we are going to own this tournament. This is ours.
Yeah.
And we got in there, and we were both out in the first round. It was embarrassing. And the guy was telling me, he's like, you're pretty good, and I'd give you a chance normally, but I've got to conserve my energy for the next round. And what I figured out was I was playing an extremely physical game. It was just raw,
right,
physical and aggression. And he was playing a very smart game. He moved as little as possible.
Exactly.
And I was just like, I'm about to like fall on the floor trying to keep up. And he hasn't moved outside of, a 2-foot diameter ring, and he's beating me. I'm like, what happened? So, props to those 80-year-olds. You need to play some like 20-year-olds and beat them.
And I'm laughing so hard because they have this park here. It's called Broad Rock Park, and everybody said, "Hey, you got to be ready when you go out to Broad Rock Park." So I called my partner. I went out there and I scoped the competition out. It's like, man, they old. We gonna get them. So I called him. I said, come on, let's get them. And exactly what you're saying. They were running us back and forth, and they never moved. They were in this little spot. And I'm like, what? And then after that, they laughed and they pulled us, they talked to us. And now they're training us. They said, well, we had to show you what was going on. You thought you was gonna come. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna get them. They're 80 years old. They're 75. No. Killed us. Yeah.
That's funny.
Same thing happened. Yeah. Same exact thing.
Oh man. Well, Reggie, hey, thank you so much for spending time with me today, talking to me about VA loans and about you. I mean, as much as Reggie and I talked a little bit about Toastmasters. We served together for 2 years on the board of Toastmasters International and got to know each other, got to spend a lot of time together, but I've learned new things about you today. So that's been fantastic for me too.
Tracy, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I've learned so much from you over the years, sitting on the board and just watching
same with you.
Your demeanor and how you handle yourself. So thank you for that, man. You've been a great friend, great mentor, even though you didn't know that, but you have been, and I appreciate that.
Well, and you didn't know that. I learned so much from you sitting on the board. Your input was always for clarification. You never went in with an agenda. You never went in necessarily to push an idea. But you drew the ideas out of other people, and I always appreciated that. You were never the naysayer. You were never the trying to have an argument with somebody. You were the give me more details, just constantly asking for more details and forcing people to think deeper about their points. And man, I always appreciated that when we worked together on the board. Absolutely.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Well, man, hey, thanks for joining me today. I sure appreciate it. And for everybody out there, we will see you in the next beer of Oktoberfest. That's right. I was about to say beer of Christmas, but we're not Christmas yet. See y'all.
Thanks, Tracy.